Are you ready to discover the shocking truth behind the disappearances of these 6 people? Brace yourself as we unveil the unsettling stories of their mysterious vanishing acts and the jaw-dropping revelations that emerged when they finally resurfaced. Number 1. Natasha Ryan. Natasha Ann Ryan, 14 years old, went missing from Rockhampton, Queensland. Natasha's mother dropped her off at school on August 31st of 1998, but she never returned home. Despite attempting to report her missing, authorities did not take the matter seriously because Natasha had fled with her 21-year-old lover, Scott Black, just a month before. Black was interrogated, but it was established that he had no knowledge of Natasha's disappearance. Several additional females went missing in the Rockhampton area between 1998 and 1999. It became clear that the ladies had been abducted and murdered by a serial killer. Natasha's family was concerned that she had also become a victim of this predator. Natasha was still missing in May of 1999, and a man named Leonard John Fraser was arrested for the death of a local 9-year-old child. He confessed to the death of the little girl and 4 other ladies, including Natasha, while awaiting his trial. He even produced a chart of where the remains may be found. Despite the fact that Natasha's remains were never discovered, her family held a memorial service for her in May of 2001 at Fraser's murder trial. On April 11th of 2003, police prosecutors made a surprising announcement. As Natasha's father listened in, prosecutor Paul Rutledge told the court that the night before, they raided a home and discovered Natasha alive and healthy in a cupboard. Natasha had been living with her partner voluntarily since 1998, and she even testified in her own murder trial that she had never met Fraser. Number 2. Stephen Kubacki. Stephen Kubacki, then 23, was a student at Hope College in Holland, Michigan in February of 1978. On February 20th, he went cross-country skiing by himself to Saugatuck, a little village on the shores of Lake Michigan. When Stephen failed to return home the following day, his family filed a missing persons report. A search and rescue operation was launched, and snowmobilers discovered Stephen's skis and rucksack. Surprisingly, they were discovered in a previously investigated location. A 200-yard trail of footprints in the snow leading to the lake's edge brought the assumption that Stephen had most likely died after falling through the ice. Stephen apparently awoke 739 miles away in a field in Pittsfield 15 months later with no recall of what transpired. Pittsfield happened to be his father's hometown. Stephen was dressed strangely and carried a backpack loaded with weird maps. Stephen drove 40 miles to his family's house and rang the doorbell. His father was completely taken aback to meet his son after 15 months of assuming that he was dead. Stephen claims that he had no recollection of the prior 15 months and that the last thing he remembers is staring out across Lake Michigan. Stephen's account has been linked with other suspected paranormal occurrences in what is known as the Michigan Triangle, such as sunken ships, UFOs, and missing aircraft. Number 3. Tanya Koch. Tanya Koch, 14, attended Cornell Middle School in McKeesport when she met a security officer named Thomas Hose. The connection proceeded, and Tanya, believing that she was in love with Hose, agreed to run away with him. On February 10th of 1996, she went to Hose's house, where he was apparently trapped inside a bedroom with his parents. Tanya was not permitted to leave the house for the first 4 years of her confinement. She was confined to a second-story bedroom and was forced to use the pail as a toilet. It was barely 2 miles from her residence. Hose gave Tanya a new identity after several years. He called her Nikki Allen and introduced her to his family as his girlfriend, who was moving in with them. While this permitted Tanya to freely explore the house, she would have to return by an exact hour determined by Hose for the following 6 years on the few times when she was allowed to leave the house. 15 years after her kidnapping began, she confessed her story to a local grocery shop owner who alerted the cops. Tanya was returned home and eventually wrote a book about her experience. Memoirs of a Milk Carton Kid, the Tanya Nicole Koch story. Thomas Host accepted a plea bargain, which the judge accepted in order to save Tanya the stress of a trial. He was sentenced to 5 to 15 years in prison on a single crime of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse. Number 4. William Bates. While his wife was visiting her mother in August of 1902, William Bates, an American ophthalmologist, wrote her a letter. It added that he had been called out of town to some big surgeries and he would be traveling with Dr. Forge, a former student. He mentioned that he would be paid well and promised to provide her further information in his next letter. No more letters arrived. After a few days, Mr. Bates contacted family and friends in the United States and Europe to check if anyone had any information. Finally, a letter from Britain arrived, indicating that a guy matching Bates' description was working as a medical assistant at London's Charing Cross Hospital. Bates was described as haggard and emaciated, with sunken eyes. Mr. Bates flew to London, eager to see her husband. However, William had no memories of his past life and was unaware of her existence. "I don't know why you bother, madam," he allegedly told her. "We are complete strangers." Mr. Bates spent the next few years hunting for her husband all throughout Europe and along the United States and along the United East Coast. She died in 1907, clutching a photograph of her late spouse. Nevertheless, that is not the end of the narrative. Number 5. John Darwin. John Darwin was a former science and math teacher who became a jail officer in Hartlepool, County Durham, England. Darwin and his wife, Anne, also ran a bed and breakfast in County Durham. The Darwins were drowning in debt after acquiring 2 houses in Seaton Carew in 2000. Darwin was spotted riding his kayak out to sea at Seaton Carew on March 21st of 2002. He was reported missing after failing to appear at work later that day. A huge search of the water and surrounding areas was carried out. Darwin's body was never discovered, only a paddle from his kayak. John Darwin was thought to be dead. Anne had to inform the couple's sons, Anthony, 42, and Mark, 45, of the news. Except for Anne, Darwin was still alive and well, temporarily living in one of the bedsits next door to his family's house. He discreetly moved back in with Anne in 2003. The Darwins decided the couple traveled to Cyprus in November to look at houses. Darwin's forays outside his home attracted the attention of several people who recognized him. None of them mentioned it. The Darwins flew to Panama in July of 2006. A Panamanian real estate agent photographed them there, and the image was shared on the internet. When John remained in Panama and returned to the United Kingdom to sell their family home, a police inquiry was launched in September after a colleague of Anne's overheard a chat between her and John. About this period, John also desired to return to the United Kingdom. On December 1st of 2007, John Darwin entered a central London police station and announced, "I believe I am a missing person." His plan was to fake forgetfulness to explain his disappearance during the last 5 years. When Anne was informed of Darwin's return, she was extremely astonished and happy to see her lost husband. Number 6. Kamaya Mobley. Kamaya was 18 years old when she was found safe in South Carolina after being taken from a Jacksonville hospital as a newborn in 1998. More than 2,500 tips were sent to authorities, leading to the arrest of Gloria Williams, 51 at the time. Williams stole Kamaya just hours after her birth at University Hospital, which is now known as UF Health Jacksonville, while pretending to be a nurse. Kamaya's only photograph was a collage because she was abducted barely hours after birth. Authorities were able to gather many sketches of Williams. DNA tests revealed that the girl was the missing baby. Kamaya was born at Trident Medical Center in Charleston, according to the false birth certificate. Just one day after being discovered, Kamaya was reunited with her mother and father, Shannara Mobley and Craig Aiken. Williams received an 18-year jail sentence for the first accusation of kidnapping and a 5-year sentence for the second allegation of interfering with custody. The sentences are concurrent, and Williams was given credit for 511 days served. The family informed Action News Jax that they had little involvement with the project. The film was released in January of 2020. That's all for today. If you want to watch more stuff like this, do check out our channel.